Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Jayson Davis, the owner of Powersports of Greenville out in South Carolina.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for being here today. My name is Jayson Davis. I run Powersports of Greenville out of South Carolina. I'm also a member and serve on the board of the National Powersports Dealer Association. And today, I'm glad you guys showed up because I just want to have a little chat about you, me, and our industry. A little background about me. At an early age for birthday, I got both a piano and a dirt bike. And in very different ways, those two things propelled my desire to seek employment in the powersports industry. It was a little bit different back then. I begged for 2 years and finally succeeded in bribing my way into a part-time position as a shipping and receiving clerk and a full-time cleanup guy. But before the first day had ended, I knew that my efforts were rewarded because I knew I'd found home. But it was for a very different reason than I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be because of all the cool product and stuff that I was now authorized to be around and talk about. But that wasn't it. It was the people. The customers, sure, but it was my coworkers that made it feel like home. And that was weird because they were so old. The guys there definitely marched to a different generational funkadelic beat. And I know now that those nice ladies in motor clothes, I wasn't understanding or comprehending half of what they were actually saying to me. But despite those differences, at the end of most days, we would go home feeling largely successful and very happy. The differences true did occasionally would knock us out of sync, or we might even once in a while get crossways with one another, but it was our overriding passion for the industry and the love of what we do that would quickly file us back into formation, if not just outright lockstep. And I remember when we were firing on all cylinders, the cadence that little dealership would just pound out day after day. I remember it because it's echoed and repeated throughout my dealership today. And truthfully, I feel it reverberates throughout the entire powersports industry, and I've just come to regard that as our industry pulse. So now, I'm in Greenville, South Carolina, about 40 minutes to an hour south of Asheville, and those two areas, as well as my home, were recently really hit hard by Hurricane Helene. And as some of the numbness and shock of that event has worn off, I've tried to remember those dark clouds and see if I could find any type of silver lining in them. And what that storm reiterated to us was the importance of, because what can be achieved by our combined efforts, which is a really long way just to say synergy. Those little mountain communities came together and moved the mountain that they were based on. And that principle can apply directly to power sports. It doesn't matter if you're a lot driver or a product rep or an OEM or a retailer. We will forever fly faster, higher, further together than we will alone. One of the things that I've learned working with the NPDA is the word PURE we use as an acronym to remind us of what we should all be doing in our industry day after day. And that's to promote, unite, represent, and educate the many different sectors of our industry. And not just for those of us who presently derive pleasure or profit from power sports, but for those of us that are going to come after as well. Your kids, my kids, the industry. And although these are easily identifiable objectives, they won't be attained so easily. Not without our united efforts and strong commitment and open, honest, ongoing communication amongst ourselves and throughout the industry. But fear not, AIM, Day 3, true believers. Every time we show up to do the job we love and we do it to the best of our abilities, we're chipping away at those objectives. Easy examples. Retailers, when we stop and take the time to explain proper helmet fit to a customer, or we see the guy struggling in the parking lot to tie his vehicle down, we go out there to assist, maybe introduce him to a canyon dancer, then we go back out there to show him how to properly use that canyon dancer. And who here hasn't had 30 minutes before close on a Saturday, a phone call, broken down, out-of-state traveler who's lost, but thinks he might only be 35, 40, 45 minutes away from the dealership? Who didn't send the truck? You sent the truck. We always send the truck. That's who we are and what we do. And our aftermarket and product industry reps, they're no different, continually pulling and pushing, bringing more variety and profit, quite frankly, to the power sports industry, cajoling us into begging us to use the product and then taking the time to show the retailer how to properly use it, training us, and then the absolutely got to be the toughest part of the job is listening to us gloat about how smart we are and using this thing that they showed us for years on end. As after the storm passed and we slowly began to rebuild our communication channels, it was the reps who consistently called early and often to offer us their support and encouragement, which is exactly what we needed at the time. But I was amazed at how many phone calls I was getting and how many reps that store has. And I had to think, man, this is some grossly inefficient stuff. There's no way this store could need this many reps. But then I looked, and I was astounded at the success those guys' efforts, how much they had contributed to not only myself, but the power sports industry. And then I was ashamed because, one, I didn't know that. And two, I had not acknowledged the gift and their time and their effort that they'd given to me, the industry, and the family. And our OEMs, they stepped up big after the storm too. Now, this is just what I know. This is just what I was privy to. Certainly not a total, but Kawasaki donated 10 4x4 Transmules to hurricane relief. Can-Am sent multiple Defenders and ATVs. Honda, Yamaha, numerous generators, water pumps, and CF Moto and Polaris both called my cell phone to ask if there's any additional equipment or supplies needed. Now, the interesting thing about those last two is I don't carry CF Moto or Polaris. In fact, I have rather emphatically campaigned against their market share in my area. I didn't tell them that last part, but I did point out, hey guys, I'm not your local dealer. And they both essentially replied in the same way, and that was, we don't care about that right now. What we need to know is what supplies and equipment are needed that we can provide and where we can send it. And that was mind-blowing. To be offered a helping hand up like that when I didn't have the opportunity to pay or wouldn't even know who to. And it made me think and ask myself, and I want you guys to ask yourselves, what would happen if the power sports industry came together like that? Not just when one of us was down, depleted, and just outright dead weight, but what would happen if we joined hands together, locked arms when we're at full strength? What could we accomplish? Can you see the possibilities? Can you feel the power in this building? Do you know that that comes from you? In a world where the power sports industry is continually promoting, uniting, representing, and educating one another, not even the sky is the limit. And for any naysayers, I'll point out that yesterday was the 7-year anniversary of a Tesla Roadster orbiting our sun. That's a company, we're an industry. And my most very favoriteest thing about this industry is that there is no defined distance that we are limited to. And if you don't believe me, you can believe the badass Bruce Lee, because he said in life, there are no limits, only plateaus, and you must not stay there. You must go beyond them. Now, time to blip on the radar. What happens if we do try to just maintain the status quo of the plateau? Well, history would say at some point you'll start to devolve. If you devolve enough, there's a chance you could be assimilated. And once you're assimilated, you will always be at risk for eliminated. So I don't know how far, if we come together today, that this generation of professional power sports can take it, but I do know that nobody in this building is going to get as many shots in life as what they're going to want. And I firmly believe that the power sports industry of today and tomorrow deserves our very best shot. So I was listening to an industry podcast last week, Garage Cast, Tales Not for the Faint of Heart, episode 260. And it was about our cousins in the marine industry and the tension and turmoil they're facing as they also try to move their industry forward. And an old adage was referenced, and that was, the pioneers take the arrows. And that's absolutely true. But there's a backside to that adage, and that is, the settlers take the land. And if I can get you guys to remember just one thing today, it's that we, the good guys, have to stick together. We have to come together at a rallying point, turn around that and use that as our launch point to trailblaze the path for the power sports wagon to and through that land of possibilities. And then, when the outside forces come against us and launch their arrows, we take those wagons, we circle them, we use our individual great strengths and talents and uniqueness. We come together collaboratively with synergy, and we deflect those arrows away from us and away from our industry brothers and sisters. That's what a pioneer family would do. And that's what the power sports industry truly is. It's a family. And once we begin to acknowledge and act accordingly on that, that's when we're going to truly unlock the power in power sports. So I want to thank you guys for being here, and I want to thank AIM for giving amplitude in their arena to this audience. And it is my hope that as we go home and reflect on all the things we've seen and learned and heard today, that you'll remember this conversation and consider sharing it with our absentee brothers and sisters. And I urge them to also think about becoming what they can do to become involved with promoting and uniting and representing and educating for the betterment of all of us. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. Yeah.